consistent with what you see on the board, my name is Kabacoff.
Talk louder, Chris. Talk louder.
You're talking louder than
Can you hear me? Huh? Okay.
Yes.
I'm executive chairman of the board of HRI Properties. HRI is a urban developer headquartered here in the city. We've done 90 projects around the country, several $1 billion of work. Got a couple thousand employees, and we revitalized 7 entire neighborhoods here in the city of New Orleans. So we've been active. There was a RFP for revitalization of the center of our city, centered around a vacant hospital known as Charity Hospital. Our company applied for that RFP, and it worked nicely for us because we're a vision and mission-led company. The vision is to elevate the urban experience, and the mission is to revitalize cities by creating diverse, vibrant, and sustainable communities. What that means on the ground is we go to a city and say, where's your Soho? We'll work with government to kickstart that neighborhood, and then the conventional market will follow. And so, as an urban developer, most of your neighborhoods have now matured. 25 or 30 years ago, it was a new concept to come back into the center of the city, take historic buildings, renovate them for residential or hotel, retail, or office. Since that time, most of your urban neighborhoods have reached some level of maturity. It's happening all over the country. And so, as a developer, you sort of have to cast your eyes out of the urban core to downtown adjacent sections of the city. And you see here a map of New Orleans. We're bounded by the river on the south, a lake, which is not in the picture to the north. It's about 5 miles from river to lake. And so we developed most of these neighborhoods along the riverfront. Some of them had been there for a couple of hundred years, like the French Quarter. And so we started looking at how could you revitalize the center of the city, the areas, 3 neighborhoods that you see there in that picture. The one that was subject to the RFP had, how do you make this? That's the point.
Right there.
Top left.
Top left.
Top left. There it is. All right. So Charity Hospital was a building right in this neighborhood, a 1 million square foot empty facility. And what was interesting is that it had, there's Charity there. It found itself near LSU Medical School teaching, Tulane Medical School teaching universities, and then north of this interstate, we just developed in the city with Katrina dollars, $2.5 billion of hospitals called the UMC and the VA. And there's a new concept in the real estate world. It used to be make a neighborhood where you could live, work, and play. You've heard that. And then they had what they call transit-oriented development, live, work, and play near public transportation. And so if you're in the development world, you're following those concepts. And more recently, very interestingly enough, there's a movement afoot to recognize that the action is not at the state or federal level, that where great thinking is coming out and leadership is coming out is in innovation districts, districts that combine, they used to be called office parks 30, 40 years ago. But the young professionals sort of like a vibrant inner city model. So if you can identify an innovation district and place it where you can live, work, and play and be near the urban center, and New Orleans happened to have, as I just said, these two teaching universities and medical facilities adjacent to the urban center with lots of vacant real estate. This fit our company perfectly. That's what we wanted to do, is develop an innovation district where lots of different users, technology, medical, tourist, all of those things sort of come together, and then they communicate over coffee and coffee shops, and one becomes 5, and you connect yourself to the world where this is happening in cities, in innovation districts, all across the planet. So that's the hottest model in real estate development. Our proposal was to take charity and, where's charity?
That's it.
That's it. Take charity and City Hall and the courts wanted to move, so we would, went the wrong way. Again. We would move City Hall and the courts into that building. We would add some offices for Tulane University and do workforce housing and fill up a 1 million square foot facility. In order to make that work, though, you had to do something that was attractive on the western side. We had a bunch of historic old hospitals that were also empty and vacant, and then a bunch of empty parking lots on the eastern side. So we looked at it as a district development, just not as a building development. And our thinking was that on the western side, we would tear down the VA building and create an urban park. And so if you were in Charity Hospital, instead of facing an empty, blighted building, you would be in an open park setting. On the eastern side, the concept was to develop retail. And that would be actually, for those from New Orleans, that would be Canal Street right there. Charity sits on Tulane. So this area in between Canal and Tulane would become a 400,000 square foot retail center. The goal being, in part, to provide the retail and the restaurants and the rest of it to make the innovation district vibrant and all of that. But even more significant than that, there's a concept called sustainable tourism. And cities like Barcelona, Venice, Copenhagen are all struggling with too many tourists. And so there's a movement to decide how do you actually spread the city's footprint out so that tourism will spread. Our French Quarter, which is right across the street, is now overloaded. And so that was one of the goals here, was to make this a vibrant area of the city and expand the tourist footprint. A week before they decided who was going to win this RFP, and we were in the short list of 2, the mayor announced that she was going to put City Hall and the courts in the municipal auditorium, which is half a mile away. I said, really? And so we did not win the competition. This Resnick lecture was set up, or at least I was notified of when all in this group who were part of this team thought that we were going to win the competition. we didn't, but I agreed that's a good thing. Hope the other team does well and makes the neighborhood work. And I was so fascinated by the energy proposal that's being put forth for you today that I said, look, we'll continue to push it. I'll help you in any way. And let's see if we can, as Tommy has said, make it citywide, the CLEP proposal. But in any event, my interest in energy, and I'm no technician like the people that you've heard on this subject, is long-standing. After our biblical event, Katrina, when 200,000 houses went underwater in a day and every neighborhood was flooded, my wife formed a salon of unique individuals. One of them was a nuclear physicist who came in and said, look, we've got this issue that's now called climate change. I really wasn't even familiar. This is 2005. I'd heard about it, but never really. So I read everything I could on climate change. And the salon group asked me if I would go to the city council and suggest that we ought to consider some renewable thinking. If any city in the country ought to be paying attention to getting carbon out of the atmosphere, it's a city that's subsiding at the same rate that the waters are rising, and we're losing a football field an hour, is it?
Yes.
Of our coastal marshland that protects us from hurricane, and so it's intensely in our interest to see the world change its thinking, and we ought to be a leader in this subject. So I went to the council, and they asked me if I would chair a broad-based energy team that would come up with recommendations. That's where I met Myron, and we did. We met in my office on the 20th floor of 909 Poiters, a high-rise office building, in the conference room with a big picture window. And while we were meeting and deliberating on where we ought to go, a peregrine falcon that here landed on the parapet and watched us deliberate, and then flew away. So we called our proposal the Energy Hawk. We presented that to the council. Some of the questions that you heard today related to the fact that our council and our big utility and the advisors that the council has had many years have been, it would be an understatement that said it's been unprogressive in their thinking. They actually, all of the concepts that are now viable today, we suggested in 2005, and council went south on us. So I guess progress goes slowly in this arena, and given the Paris Accords, you can go backwards sometimes. But in any event, we got involved in charity, and what's relevant to today's discussion is we wanted to be that, we have that revitalization progressive in every way, on diversity, on inclusion, on broadband, on walkability, on energy policies, and water management. So we assembled teams in that effort on all, and Myron headed up our energy team. And Myron convinced me that if we're going to be progressive in this area, the kinds of things that our company has been doing for years, which is trying to insulate the windows well, get the right kind of air conditions, and all the building efficiencies that you're talking about, was not really where the big action was. And what you've been hearing today from the group, and will continue to hear, is that if we could ever get into a situation where we could create in this neighborhood a microgrid and be able to get the city council to allow through this CLEP rate case us to take advantage of, at least in the vernacular, buying energy at midnight from Iowa when it costs 1 cent instead of 5 cents, that you could fund the equipment that you need to play in this arena, which is ice plants, Rick will describe, somebody else will describe, the great big batteries. And on a project this large, that was a $40 million expenditure. My experience as a developer, that all of these progressive ideas, when you go to the bank and say, gee, we'll be able to amortize the additional loan to buy this equipment because we'll be reducing energy costs, that line item will go down, giving us money to take care of your loan. They won't play. And so, and again, I'm not a building scientist like Myron is, or a mathematician even, and what he's saying all sounds sort of right to me, but I wanted to hear from other folks that are in the business that this would be a viable concept, that if we could actually get this rate case approved, we could find lenders for the $40 million of ice machines and batteries, etc., that would make this a reality. And so we brought in Mike Hopkins, who you'll hear from shortly, with Ice Energy. He was a leader in the country making these ice machines and providing ice cooling at night, etc. And then we went to Johnson Controls. Johnson, most of you probably have heard of them. They actually finance improvements based on predicted energy savings. And what Myron explained to me, and Rick, the numbers were that you could take $1 million a year energy bill and with this equipment, reduce it to 400,000, which gives you 600,000 to play with. And then what you don't need and you store at night, buy cheap. You could sell with the CLEP model back to the energy company in the day during peak demand and make another 600,000. So you would, you change your numbers from $1 million to minus 200,000. Is that right? Close. Close. So that, and when I went to Johnson Controls, I said, with that kind of cash flow, will you loan us the money for the batteries and the ice making machine? They said yes. And so I really felt pretty confident, and still do, that this model, although it's not been totally tested, is a way to go. And in the world today, the predictions that if you don't do something by 2050, then New Orleans is underwater, and my judgment tells me that I'm not going to quit flying in an airplane. I'm probably not going to quit using my car with the gas, and the rest of it could go to electric car. Probably won't get off of meat, although I should. And so, and I'm like everybody else, so the likelihood of reaching those targets just based on changing of habits won't get us there, unless the Greenland ice sheet melts and we all get scared to death and do something about it. And so it's going to be ideas like this. It's going to be bringing the price down on renewables in creative ways through these kind of programs that will actually allow us to achieve this goal. So we ought to be all over this stuff, everywhere in every community. And I hope this ResNet group, I was asking Myron, I said, well, look, what's the play here? He said, well, you get the word out. This is a powerful organization, and we'll lay the groundwork for potentially going to many jurisdictions with this concept. I think right now in our own city, since you've got it in the rate case, I'm hoping that this ResNet group, if you like what you hear, will send a good message to our city council and say, play in this arena. Because you never know, the energy company may object to this, the advisors may object to this, it may be a difficult sell, even though it makes so much sense. So I've got more slides, and I could go over the numbers, Myron, but I think I've covered my talk. So that's it.
So, in the interest of Matt, it's about 2:55. Because we
shift around the talks a little bit. We're going to have a quick question and answer. If you have any questions for Rick or Press or even Myron's earlier talk on CLEP 5. Yes?
Regarding this specific project, I heard that you had the ice cooling technology, and that was really allowing it to be a battery. Were there other ways that you were moving and storing energy? Were there actual battery technology that you were using?
I'll let Myron and
and was there a community solar component built into it as well?
I'll answer that to some extent.
Mike, is it okay to repeat the question also?
Yes. So on the charity hospital $40 million number that Press was talking about, I'm the one who generated that number. Okay. And it had a lot of stuff in it. It had batteries. It had ice making equipment. It had some solar. It had broadband, which I did not really appreciate the value of broadband until I was informed. Because all this stuff we're talking about, if we have high-speed internet broadband, it makes everything work better, and I didn't really appreciate that. We had connected to the microgrid. We had a little building in there for like an educational component. But the majority of the money was the ice-making machines and the batteries. The challenge is the batteries take up space. And if you put too many of them, I was concerned about potential flammability and all that. But I've gotten talk from Myron saying that they're very safely rated. So that's a challenge that had not been thought through, but we budgeted for it. I said, you know, if we get this CLEP program approved, then we'll tackle that challenge. But it's not something that's insurmountable. Same thing with the ice.
Just want to say one thing. Johnson Controls has a cash flow of $30 billion a year. That's a B, okay? They're like the serious big player around. So if they say something's going to work, you can bank on it. In fact, they're going to be the bank, so they make all the money. So to be a little bit specific in the weeds, it was a 8 megawatt-hour battery, and it was going to have an electric car garage. Electric car garage is going to augment the battery because of the batteries in the car. But not only that, as I was going to get into my talk, we get reliability from batteries, but eventually the batteries run out of energy. So suppose you have a 1 milliwatt power outage, what do you do to recharge those batteries? Well, you drive in your electric buses that you're using for your schools, and they park in the same parking lot, and they recharge the 8 megawatt battery. Megawatt hour battery, which means you never run out of energy. You can drive someplace and recharge the buses someplace else. And so you've got resilience for long after the hurricane problem is past. And then you have solar farms, and we weren't going to build the solar farms on the building because it's expensive. The right place to build it is the community solar farm. The cheap land is way off those maps that you're talking about. The land's expensive. It's all part of the same financing on solar. So this cash flow, which over here was $1 million a year just from energy efficiency improvements, goes to $400,000. But with CLEP, you get a negative $600,000 bill. So imagine if you take that same building, which is a 1 billion square foot building, and you divide it by 1,000. That's your home. That's your home. You have a 1,000 square foot home. So you're currently paying $1,000 a year for energy, right? With energy efficiency, you can take it down to $400 a year, right? With CLEP, you can take it to minus $600 a year.
In theory.
Well, we have the calculations that you did, Rick.
I understand.
Okay.
There was a question up front before me.
Okay, I think it was Rick's discussion with all the charts. And there was something in there that, I might be mistaken, but it gave me a social equity concern. It was like if you don't join CLEP, there's actually a penalty.
No, if you don't join CLEP, you status quo. Nothing changed.
But it looked like the bill went up.
Right, but if you join CLEP and you barely do anything, it's like paying your athletic membership and never going, okay? You still have to pay more. But if you join and you start doing all these things, you'll get a benefit.
No, but it seemed like there was somebody who didn't join and their bill went up.
No.
No,
social equity.
Yeah, if someone doesn't join, their bill never changes, it's the same thing.
In fact, it might go down because the energy.
Right.
Let me just clarify this. It's not a minor issue. If you propose a new rate to the utility anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, the first question they're going to ask you is, what happened to the non-participants? Will their bills go up? Because by definition, makes their bills go down. Not very much. They go down. Okay? So over there is your question.
Yeah, just another thing on the pro forma. Did you assume that all the income on the rents for this was to make it? I assume there was a pro forma that you were just using market rates and that.
Yeah, he used the market rates and didn't take into account that you might attract people
Right.
with this more sustainable, environment. Okay?
Or resilient because you're going to have battery
But
backup.
but see, the people would not see a reduction in their electric bill. Okay, in order to get the benefit of all that, they're going to pay maybe see a little bit, but they're going the electric bill is going to stay static because you're going to collect that savings to pay for that investment.
Right.
Okay, and then after it's paid off, then there's a residual benefit.
Yeah, we figured that the payback was around 8 years, and then the cash flow is a more than $40 million investment. Keeps going for the next 20 years. You can imagine what you're doing that in.
And one of the things that came out of the charity hospital job was that I thought was amazing. Myron and I are walking the building, and I was like, okay, now we're gonna have to put like, I don't know, it's gonna be a 1,000 kW generator for backup power. He said, oh no, we're gonna do all that. We're gonna go with batteries. And I said, have you lost your mind? And so he explained this to me, and we worked through it. And I said, okay, that 1,000 kW maybe goes down to 350. You still need some kind of a generator, but what happens is a generator never pays for itself. And all it is a cash drain like your automobile. Whereas a battery system provides resiliency, real resiliency, and it pays for itself with cash flow. So that is really something that was a paradigm shift for me as a construction type.
Well, and I can tell you on that single family size, there is a builder, he's not using CLEP, right? He's just depending on the time of use structure, but they have a pretty radical time of use structure in Arizona where they're at, because they have to deal with all that free power from California that comes on every day when that orange orb goes up in the sky. But he has zero bill homes because he has battery, he has his water heater connected to it, he has solar on the roof, and very passive house type homes that he's building. But he already today is able to deliver for folks with a moderate sized PV system and a moderate sized battery, because they have the rate structure they do, homes that they pay zero for the use. They still have to pay to be connected to the grid for the services that it's providing to them. But with this model, if they had a rate structure like this, then those folks would actually be positive just for the homes he's already building today, like using off-the-shelf technology.
They become pro